I'm alive! Hello and hi! It's been a minute, but I'm back and I'm settled and I'm sorted, and I know it's been like a month since my last video, but it's fine, I'm working on it. I have many stories to tell. It has been a very long month, but hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another speed paint because I need to buy myself time for the next video. And today's speed paint is a set of character sheets for all of the main characters of the first arc of the comic, which I am so excited to share with you. So the character sheets have taken a little while to come out. I mostly just had to figure out the new designs for all the characters based on the new art style that I was experimenting with the last time we were here. In the last few months, I've been practicing with proportions and figure drawing, and I can tell you, I have not improved. I'm getting better, but I tend to have good days and bad days, and funnily enough, when I started working on this, I was having a surprisingly bad day. It's a little odd because I do draw as well for my main job, and it's done in a more stylized way where the proportions are slightly different depending on what I'm being asked to do. So it's really odd sometimes because I'll do work and then after work I'll switch over and start on comic stuff. And sometimes I have a bit of a hard time adjusting to the change. And so I kind of end up having to force my way into making proportions that are realistic again. But what I will say is that I've started doing figure drawings in the mornings and trying to kind of loosen up. I actually use a website called lineofaction.com, which randomly generates different figures and references for you to use while you're drawing, which is really, really cool. I use it kind of a lot, and they have different settings and modes. So you'll have a 30-second window to draw a figure, and then you can move up from 30 seconds to 1 minute to 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and then depending on how much time you've got and how much you want to work on a single image, it really helps you get a feel for the different frames. And I know that's pretty normal for artists. That's like figure drawing 101, is that you do that exact kind of exercise. But I have this kind of thing where I forget everything I learn after a couple of months, which is why I write everything down and why I make videos so I can watch them back. Anyways, back to the characters. I have always kind of had the idea, I mean, if you look back, I've always had the designs for the characters kind of done already. In fact, it was pretty much one of the first things that I did. But it's been really fun to try and translate that into the new art style. And I mean, it's been fairly easy because not much is actually changing. It's just the style of the line art and the coloring. But that on its own was fun to try. I feel like it gave all the characters a bit of a newer, more polished look about them, which I really, really liked. And I did try to put quite a bit of character into the posing. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. I think Tolok's came out a little bit stale, but other than that, I was pretty happy with the designs. And I'm happy that I get to share them with all of you because it was a really fun process. It's something that I've always tried to do when I make a story, is I make character sheets, height sheets, compare different parts, compare the different looks, and it's so nice to have a height sheet around. It's pretty standard again, but it was cool that I was making something more official to the comic that will help me so much down the line. And it was a cool thing to test out as well, because as much as I would love to, I haven't actually been experimenting with the new style as much as I would like to. I've been mostly testing it out on pencil and paper because that's something that I can knock out really easily in about 10-15 minutes. Whereas when I work digitally, I find it takes me quite a bit longer, which I'm not entirely sure why that is, since I'm essentially doing the exact same thing just on a screen instead of on paper, but for some reason it kind of feels like it comes more naturally through there. And it's something that I've noticed, like, since I started digital art, I've noticed that, but it's really interesting to see that difference. And I don't know why it is, I'm just reporting what I feel. Anyways, yeah, the comic has gone through so many different changes, and the world building it keeps growing and growing and growing, and I want to talk about it more, but I feel like I'm going to have to wait a little bit before I can, since a lot of the stuff that I'm currently working on is still in the works, and I don't really want to make a video about it until I am done, which might take a while. I really want to talk about it, but it is spoilery, so I will refrain. Other than that, the other big news, I made a short about it, but in case you didn't see it, a Tumblr user by the name of Cool Clay Tony reached out to me through Tumblr and basically offered to just give me a conlang that they had made entirely for the comic, for the story, which is wild, and it's beautiful, and the amount of like work and care that's gone into it, and he watched all the videos I've put out so far, and created a conlang based around it, which was so cool. And I'm going to try and integrate it into the comic's official language. And I've said before that I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to languages or conlangs. My home language is English, and I've only ever tried to learn 2 languages on top of it. One was Afrikaans, which I had to do for school, and the other one was Japanese because I'm a huge nerd. And I am bad at both of them in different ways, and I get them confused with one another, which is not great. So I am not the expert on conlangs, and as much as I would love to make a video about conlangs, I feel like I have to teach myself a lot before I can even get to that point. But the conlang that Cool Clay Tony provided was a huge step in that direction, and I've been going over the language and kind of looking over it, and I feel like it is something really worthwhile to learn, just because, you know, my surface level overview of it, it shows you so much more of an understanding of their world than kind of a lot of things, really. Like, short of me writing an entire essay on how they view the world, it's so much nicer to, and quicker and easier to create the language and see how they interpret the world around them through their language. For example, if they create a knife and they call the knife lion tooth or lion fang, or if they call lightning skyfire, or if they call fire ground lightning, it shows what came first for them, that's what I'm trying to say. It shows you how their world works and how they interpret everything that they see, and it's so fascinating, and it makes them feel, for me at least, it made the characters feel so much more alive. And that's something I have a bit of trouble with, where I have kind of a hard time getting into the headspace of others and understanding their perspective. I can look at it from a more detached academic way of viewing, but I can't really examine the person there. It's something that I don't really examine about myself that often, and it's something that I want to examine more, is trying to get into the right headspace of people and change the way that they speak and the way that they work and the way that they move and the way that they talk, to make them feel more like the characters that they are and not just myself talking through them, if that makes sense. And that's something I'm gonna have to work on, definitely before the first arc comes out, because that's something that I have to fix. Because that's going to be really important. I want the characters to feel like who they are and not just extensions of myself, which I think is something a lot of authors have to kind of figure out for themselves, and it's something that I'm trying to figure out. So I don't know, maybe I'll make a video on it, but I think I have to figure it out before I can even think about making a video on it. That's kind of a thing where everything I look at for the comic kind of ends up pulling double duty as something I could then turn into a video later, which is a really interesting thing. It's not something that I did before, and it's interesting that that's something that's where my brain goes now. And can you tell I'm doing a lot of I think about a lot of stuff, but I don't actually do a lot of stuff, which is a bit frustrating. But other than that, yeah, the conlang is incredible and the world is coming along nicely. At the beginning of this year, I told myself that I would have the first arc of the comic out by the end of this year, and I'm gonna be honest, it's getting there, slowly. And this month was kind of, that's a great segue into my explanation for this month. This month has been long. And not this month of August, I mean the month of July, because I am recording this on the 2nd of August, so I'm still in the headspace of July. I moved house. I moved into the city. It's about an hour down from where I was before. It's really cool. I really like it. The other thing is that So I've been moving, sorting out finances, getting myself more accustomed to my area, and also trying to get a car. And that has been the worst experience of my life. I don't like cars. I don't like driving. I kind of just have to have one because that's the way everything is. We don't really have walkable cities or anything. Everything's very designed around cars, and there's not really any real public transport that I would feel safe taking. So it's kind of just that's my only option. So I have to have a car. Used cars are a nightmare. It's a horrible experience. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you have to, which is my situation. I have to. I shouldn't be giving advice like that to anyone. Anyways, back to the comic. If you can see Tolok, I should mention that now. Tolok is actually missing his thumb, index, and 2 knuckles on his middle finger. And that is actually something new that's part of his design. It wasn't there before. It's something that I included just as a touch of realism. It's after looking at the bodies found in the Shanadar cave and kind of looking at how they were damaged in these very specific ways and how they had these consistencies across them, I kind of figured that the characters were maybe a little bit too healthy. They needed a little bit of roughness to them. And specifically Tolok, since he is already kind of a rough character, seemed the most logical one to have that kind of an injury. It's also kind of linked to his character and the way that he will be within the first arc, and the role that he will play within the first arc is that of a rougher, more broken character, without getting too spoilery. So it's nice to show that off in a more physical way and to show that in the character design instead of just explaining it through text and character interactions, which is my main goal. That's what they always tell you, isn't it? Show, don't tell. Yeah, that's why character designs and redesigning the characters in specific way in this designs, quote unquote, and using a new art style gave me a chance to kind of have just a bit of a chance to tweak some of the character designs, make them look a little bit more in line with what I want them to be within the comic proper. Yeah, it's a little bit here, it's a little bit there. A lot of the stuff is subtext. It's not going to be in the actual main comic. It's probably going to be bonus material at the end of the day. For example, Orgel is not originally from their band. He's from another band, and so as a result his eye color is different and his stature is of course taller. He comes more from a Mediterranean environment, so he will have a slightly darker shade of skin tone. That's also something that I need to re-examine, is the skin tone of the characters, but that is a discussion for another video. I really don't want to get into it yet because it's not something that I'm done looking at the moment. So yeah, the characters have, of course, the leg warmers, of course, a staple of the design. I decided the look so long ago and I liked it when I made it, and every time I draw it, I can't really decide whether I like it or not anymore, but it's there, it's part of the design, and at the end of the day, it's nicer to have that option for when it gets colder. So even if they don't wear it at the beginning of the comic, as the seasons change and the winter starts approaching, it will be nice to see them start weaving them and start wearing them, which is their own, as just an extra bit of padding to their outfits. The passage of time is going to be not really a huge theme in the first arc, but it is going to be there, which of course is the intention. You want to have that kind of sowing of the seeds of this passage of time, and what it does to them before the story continues and time becomes a much more important aspect to the to the mental state of one character in particular. Iggy was really fun to draw. I don't know how baby proportions work. I did a lot of Googling and I tried to find out what I could. It's really, really hard to find proportions, like short of drawing from actual like infants. So yeah, art resources, maybe it's just me, maybe I wasn't looking in the right place, but I thought they were just kind of like lacking. But I suppose like not a lot of people draw infants. Oh, and the protective markings on their bodies that was also really fun. I always have fun kind of trying out different ways for it to appear on them. In my head, they reapply it if not every morning, then whenever they start to fade, they wash them off in water and they just start again. So it's cool to have them in different spots and different days. Every time I draw the characters, I change the way that the circles appear on their bodies. I also want to attach some symbolism to them as well. So you can see Mitsuka has them around her fingers, whereas Orgel has them on the back of his hand. That's, they're supposed to be protective signs. So the places that they appear in should be related to what they're protecting. So, for example, a protection of the hand is pretty obvious in Tolok's case. The protection of the fingers for Mitsuka and for Tala is more related to the actual process of crafting, where the fingers are the most important part of the process. When they go hunting, the war paint that they use as well should have more symbolism tied into the circle designs, which is all something that I want to kind of portray in the comic proper, which I'm really excited to do. I think it's going to be fun. But at the end of the day, they are primarily, the meta reason for why they exist is just to make the designs more interesting and to portray their culture a little bit more obviously. But it's really cool to have that extra design. And then of course the ephemerals in their hair and around their necks and around their arms and everything, and on their belts as well. Not as much on their belts, but again, it's there's stuff that I did to start off with just because it's an aesthetic. So the ephemerals were definitely just for an aesthetic. And then later on, the canonical reason for why they actually do continue with this practice and make it something that holds a lot of symbolic weight to their daily life and to the way that they live comes a little bit later. And I don't really know how much I should talk about it, to be honest. I don't know where it starts becoming a little bit disingenuous and starts becoming a little bit like too much behind the curtain. That's something else that I want to say. I really like doing these, but I can only really talk about what's going on in my life and what's going on in the actual visuals and what's happening with the comic so much before I start running out of things to say. So it's not really the same as the Q&A, but if there's anything that you want me to talk about or touch up on or mention or anything like that, or within these videos, you're welcome to leave them in the comments. I'll look through them before I make the next one, and then I'll see if there's anything in particular that I want to talk about or what you want to hear me talk about, because I'm pretty open. I'm happy to talk about things, but I know it's kind of difficult because it's like, well, I'll give you guys homework before we finish the video. But yeah, I do want these to be a little bit more casual. You've definitely already been able to tell that there's no script for this. This is complete stream of consciousness stuff with a lot of panicked editing. I'm looking forward to the next 4 hours now where I have to do all the editing and just edit out all the ums and ahs and breathing. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed hearing me ramble about nothing for 20 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for enjoying. And I really, really, really hope you liked this. And I hope you didn't mind listening to me ramble for too long. Also, character age reveals and character height reveals. That's also something. Did you catch that? I didn't mention it at all the entire video, and it's kind of one of the main reveals of the art as well. Tala is 19. That means nothing. She will be 1,000 very soon. And her brother is 17, and she's mad at him because he is taller than her, which I thought was funny. And that was the entire originating premise to the character sheets. Thank you and good night. And thank you all to my Patreons for being here and for enjoying my work enough to actually pay money to help me continue it on. Thank you so much. You are helping me more than you can imagine. I get to gush about how cool this is now. I had to physically hold myself back the entire video, and now I get to talk about how cool you guys are and how amazing you are and how awesome it is that there's a Patreon and it's here, and I will upload more things to it, I promise. Thank you so much. And yeah, if you like my stuff, if you want to be more involved in it, I tend to forget that I can upload to multiple places at once, and I tend to just upload updates to the Patreon instead, which is something I'm going to try and not do as much, because I shouldn't be leaving the YouTube to rot in between uploads. But there's a couple extra updates, couple extra stuff. You can join for as low as $1 a month. Thank you so much again, and have a great rest of your week, and bye-bye.